we're getting creative and trying a new method. And as we're all learning, and we can see by the backgrounds and different things, we're all learning what Zoom meetings and teleconferences are all about. But one of the best parts about this is we're getting to see some faces and some people that we haven't seen in a long time. So I'm moderating, won't be talking much, but just a couple of housekeeping items. Probably easiest if everybody goes on mute, except for the speaker, so we can prevent some of the background noise that we occasionally receive on this. We are using the chat feature, so anybody, if you notice on the bottom, there's a chat, so you can ask a question, and we'll try to get to your questions through the chat feature. But what we're going to do is open up with Gary some remarks. He'll introduce Spencer. We'll follow up with some questions. Those of you who were on earlier, Spencer has to leave and get ready to take a French test. And then Gary will come back and close with some remarks as well, and answer some questions. So with that, as we get started, again, just want to thank everybody for joining us. You're our most loyal and generous contributors and supporters. We appreciate that. And we'll turn it over to Gary Barta for a welcome.
All right. Well, first of all, I knew nothing. I'd never heard of the word Zoom, or at least the video conferencing portion of Zoom prior to this. So hopefully the rest of you are getting used to it as I am. And it is awesome to see so many faces as I was scrolling through and seeing so many of you. I've talked with some of you, and those have been great conversations. But thanks for joining us today. And we're going to be respectful of your time. We'll stay on time and just share with you. I'm going to go through and share with you just some operational things, how the department's doing, what we're doing. And that's going to be really boring after listening to one of our student athletes, one of our great student athletes. And but that is the order that we should go in, and I want to go in. Plus, he has to go ace a French test. Before I turn it over to Spencer, though, it just reminds me of going through all this that athletics is really important in our lives, but there's so many things so much more important. So whatever your family challenges are, whatever your health challenges are, whatever your business challenges are, just know every day we're all going through this together. And as we've heard so many times from other people, I wish when I see all the names who are joining us in faces, this would be a great share on how everybody leads through crisis. But probably that would get a little challenging to share everybody's ideas. So just through it all, you have all my blessings and thoughts and prayers. So we will get through it together. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the baton and let Spencer go first. We have a whole bunch of student athletes that we'd love for you to hear from. We had so much momentum going into this prior to the crisis. Men's basketball, Luka Garza, the best player in America in our opinion, and women's basketball, Kathleen Doyle was drafted the other night in the second round of the WNBA. Lulaga Tasaga, the defending national champ in the discus, and on and on and on. Spencer Lee really represents everything we could possibly ask for in a student athlete. He had more to gain. His team had more to gain and lose with his season being ended than really anybody. And yet, in being aware of listening to some of his comments since then, or reading some of his comments, as hard as that would be, with all that he had to lose, his attitude, his leadership, his commitment to moving forward just remain at an all-time high. So with that said, if anything good did come out of this, even though he didn't get to finish, he is the 2020 Hodge Trophy winner, the most dominant wrestler in America. So Spencer, take it from there.
Thanks, Gary. I just want to thank all you guys for being here and your support of Hawkeye Athletics. It's tough times. These are unprecedented times, so just want to make sure everyone's safe. And I'm looking forward to getting back on the mat again. It's been a while since Big Tens, but I want to thank all those that are helping us, those the personnel, the the ones that can work, healthcare. It's pretty awesome. My mom works at a hospital, so I just know that's hard, and there's people we wouldn't be here without them. So thanks.
So Spencer, a couple of questions for you that have come in that we was talk about your feelings when you first heard, from your coaches that the season was ending, and you weren't going to get that chance to compete at the NCAAs.
Well, it was just disappointing. We had it was a big year for us. We hadn't won NCAA since 2010, and we're that team that people expect us to win. So we know every year we got to go out and do our best. And this was our year, just like every year is our year. But this year was, we were number one going in undefeated. We beat the defending like 7 or 8 time national champs in a dual meet. We beat them at Big Tens, and we had 3 number one seeds at NCAA's, a 2, a 3, a 5, an 8, and 11. We had guys that were just poised to go out there and put on a show and bring back home a title for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And when they told us the season was over, and it was the week before nationals, and we were all ready and peaking, and then next thing you know, it's gone. So we just had to focus on what's the next best thing, and that was focusing on our studies and staying in shape and staying healthy. So, but it was disappointing.
Disappointing for you and all of us, that's for sure. Talk a little bit about that. Staying in shape, it's hard. Athletic facilities are closed right now. So you're having to, all our student athletes are having to find ways to stay in shape on their own. How are you going about that process?
Well, I'm a guy that needs to definitely keep in shape. That's just how I am as a wrestler. Just gotta, not always in the best shape all year, so I gotta keep it going. But Tom and Terry, they call me pretty much every day. They make sure that I'm doing something. I'm with the guys, running, walking, just body weight stuff, push-ups, pull-ups, what you can find. Like I said, I live right next to Carver. I can look at it right now, looking at my door, and I can't even go in there. It's just a little hard, but we make do, and we make sure that we're just maintaining. It's maintaining and staying healthy. That's all we can do, and a lot of mental stuff, just like staying positive and not focusing on things you can't control, just things you can control, and just being. I mean, for me, it's positive. This is just so tough for me that it's easy to be negative and to hate on NCAA or hate on the people that made the decision. But ultimately, these are unprecedented times, and people know better than I do. I just wanted to compete, so I was just disappointed. But you got to listen to those that know better than you and move on and focus on what you can control.
A little bit then, that's from your competitive side. What about academically, moving to the online classes? You've mentioned you've got a French test here this afternoon.
Yep.
How are you adapting to that online classes, your teammates, and working through kind of the new process of whether it's tutoring and things like that?
Well, it's a little hard because a lot of Zoom meetings. Like last Tuesday, I remember vividly because I had like 6 in a row. I had to meet with like 3 different partners, then I had to meet with a teacher, then I had to do a project, then I had to do, like, it was just like I was on from like 2 o'clock to like 7. And then like next thing my friend wants to play video games, and I'm like, I don't even want to speak to someone right now. Just give you a little bit of a break. So it's a little different. It's a lot more on your own. You're not going to class. You're not like scheduled unless the teacher has like a Zoom meeting where they tell you to go on at a certain time. So it's just a little different. But as long as you, I have a big calendar. You can't see it. It's behind me that I got to write on because I'm a guy that like I don't think as much. So if I see it though, I can remember and make sure I get it done ahead of time. But so it's a lot about time management. So it's a little different than when you're in class and teachers telling you every day. They're not going to email everyone over and over and over again. They have a lot of work. So it's been just as hard on teachers too. So we get that, I think, as students.
You it was a remarkable season that we were all had a lot of fun watching. Carver was electric so many times. Can you pick out a few moments? Maybe not, doesn't have to be specifically your matches, but just in general, some memories of this season in Carver Hawkeye Arena.
I think the memories that I remember personally are like senior Pat Lugo against Oklahoma State. He had #1 guy in the country, and he goes out and he pins the guy, just kind of like throws him to his back, and it was we were all expecting like a barn burner, just a hard fought match, and he pins the guy, and we were all like, wow, that's so and the crowd was loud and electric. And then the next one was probably Michael Kemmer beating the defending national, well, three-time national finalist, national champion Mark Hall from Penn State, and he went out there and kind of like put it on him. He just every time he scored there, it was like deafening in there. And there's like a picture of me screaming because like and like my veins popping just because I was so into it. It's just like a brotherhood. He's my brother, and I want him to win more than anything. I didn't want to miss any of those matches. It was awesome. I mean, we averaged like 12,500 a dual meet. We broke the wrestling record. It's a tribute to our fans and the following that we have. It's crazy. And that match was so loud. It was the loudest I've ever been in Carver. And I went to Carver my 8th grade year when we beat Penn State then. And Ramos pinned Jimmy Gulabon. I know Gulabon was from my club, so I know him. But he pinned him, and I remember not even being able to hear myself. But that was probably just as loud, if not louder. So pretty awesome.
I think we can all agree some of the fun moments are outside of what we see on the mat over in the bench area. Clearly, water bottles being thrown, different things. That culture that you have, clearly, you're a family, all of you. How does that start? How does that go about? What goes into that?
Well, it wasn't just like 1 year we all became family. I attribute to the seniors this year and last year, them kind of coming in and changing the culture that may have been before, more into like, this is a family, this is a team, we're all about each other. We want everyone to succeed, to be the best that they can be, whether they're not starting or not. Like I was most disappointed in this year where the seniors, we had 11 seniors that weren't starting on our team, but they're the ones that helped change the initiative about us. Like, we had a bad rep about us for a while, and they helped change that. They help train us, they help be partners, they help bring me up positivity, and they don't get national champion rings. And that, to me, that was the most disappointing thing, because they helped create this brotherhood. Even if you're not a starter, they were there every day. They were working every day. They were training like they were starting. They were making weight. It was just like, it attributes to how they are and how they think, the mentality that Tom and Terry and Morningstar and Telford, what they put into us. It's just, I couldn't even imagine that. I'm just so impressed with the way they are, and I know all of them are going to be very successful because, one, they've came out of the University of Iowa, and two, they came out of that room, and I know for a fact that they're gonna do great things, and I'm excited to see how they do.
Now we have 650 student athletes, and thanks to a number of the people on this call who support those scholarships. But when you look at over the course of this year, this wrestling season, images of you and Tristan Wirth and AJ, and then you go to just think about the winter, as Gary mentioned, the Big Ten Wrestler of the Year yourself, Big Ten men's basketball player, and Luca, women's basketball, and Kathleen. What is it being around? Gary mentioned La Luga, so many sports. The athletes, we have some of the best athletes in the country on this campus. How you interact and how they push each other.
Well, I think when there are successful athletes on campus, other people are drawn to that. And we've had the most. This would have been, I don't know, one of the most successful years I've ever seen in Iowa athletics. So it was kind of disappointing that wasn't be able to put into fruition. But it was just, can you like seeing like Garza win Player of the Year, like one of the 6 that he got, like, was super cool, because you don't want to be. We're always known. I want to say known as like a wrestling school, but like now I want to be known as one of the best athletic institutions in the nation, and we're getting there. And it's like, to me, it was like impressive, like, because my girlfriend was like, "Oh, you guys are known for wrestling," but I'm like, well, and that you name those names off, and there's more. We got like field hockey and just on and on and on. And we're just such a good academic and athletic institution that it's a place where you're proud to go to, and where you go to every single games and matches. Like, I made sure to go to the basketball games this year because I wanted to watch him play. Like Megan Gustafson last year, I wanted to watch her play, just because they're so good at what they do. Like, I went to track meets too, and field hockey events and everything. I try to go as much as I can because they're just so. It's nice to be around athletes with the same mentality as you, who want to be the best in their sport, like just like you. And they go to the same university as you. We bleed black and gold. So it's just, I mean, to me, it's an honor to be around them.
Sure. A couple of more last questions for you that have come up. Community service. A lot of our athletes are involved in community service. What are some of the things that you, the wrestling program, are involved in from a community service standpoint, or what are you trying to find ways to get out?
I'm an ISAC rep, so I get like the firsthand about what we do, like with Helper app, and our big thing for wrestling is like day of caring, and we send a lot of guys there. So that's like our big one. But there's a lot of opportunities on campus that you can. It's easy to volunteer. You just talk to Winkleman, Andy Winkleman, and or you talk to Liz Tovar or whoever, and you'll make sure that they'll make sure there are opportunities for you. Whether it's you want to intern, you want to volunteer, you want to just be around kids. Dance marathon. We work at dance marathon. There's just so many opportunities for students and student athletes to volunteer if you just know where the resources are. And I've been to a lot of events, and I try a little bit. I wish I did more, honestly. I'm always more focused on just wrestling and things, but there are things that I could do better. So that's on me. But it's pretty easy to find a way to volunteer if you just you just ask.
I think you do a great job. All of our student athletes do a wonderful job with it. One of the questions, the three most inspirational people in your life.
Three most inspirational people, I would say Terry Brands for sure is definitely the most inspirational to me, just because I know how hard he worked as an athlete and how hard he works as a coach every day. My father for all the sacrifices that he made to put me as the human being and the person and athlete and the student that I am. I mean, the third one would be my coach. He was my mentor, my club coach. His name is Jody Stripmatter. He's actually a Hawkeye alum.
Yeah.
He's a two-time Big Ten champ, national finalist, two-time All-American. He was kind of the guy that, like, because sometimes kids, they stop listening to their dads or their parents a little bit. He was kind of relaying the same message my father would, but he was a different person saying it, so you kind of listen a little more. So, but they all had different like roles. Like Jody was a mentor, Jody Stripmatter. Terry, he's like a father figure, and my dad was obviously he's my father, but they just had different roles to play. Like my dad was the one that wanted me to be a good speaker. Jody was the one that wanted me to. He encouraged me to be who I was on and off the mat, and how to interact with like kids and how to coach. That's how I learned. And my dad was just the one that made these sacrifices. He did everything he could for me to be successful, and I wouldn't be anywhere where I am today if it weren't for my parents. My mom's in there too, but my dad was the one that drove me everywhere. He drove me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday, 2 hours just to get partners, just so I could train with someone, just so I could train under a coach like Jody Stripmatter. So those are definitely the three most influential people in my life. Absolutely.
Sure, that was a great answer. What about making weight is something that wrestling, everybody is curious. It's easier, we like to think at the upper weights maybe, but at your weight, your process of how you make weight, how difficult that can be.
Well, so I'm a little different. The guys on my team would laugh. I'm kind of small, so I really only weigh like 127, 128, and my weight class is 125. And we lose like 3 to 5 pounds a workout. So I make weight pretty easy. But the thing is, if you're not dedicated and you're not like living the right lifestyle, your weight can fluctuate. And if your weight's fluctuating and you're not keeping it consistent, then your wrestling will also kind of look like that. You'll get tired. Your legs might be more tired because you had to run more, or you didn't eat the right things. You get in what you get out. So if you eat good foods, you're going to get good out. That's kind of how my dad would always tell me when I was younger. So I'm very consistent. I like to do the same things pretty much every day. I eat the same things every day. I have 2 eggs, omelet on a bagel for like kind of like a breakfast / lunch, and then dinner's chicken, pasta, rice, broccoli. Just things that I just like being consistent. And then the hardest part about it, though, is making weight every week in college. You make weight either on a Friday, Sunday, or on a Saturday every week, but it's every single week. You make weight, and then the next thing you know it, you got to do it again the next week while you're training, while you're peaking, while you're just trying to stay healthy, while you're doing schoolwork. So, sometimes you'll see kids in class like kind of eating things and stuff. And like if you're really cutting, might make some guys mad because they want to do that, But as long as you're dedicated, you're still going to be eating good. You're still going to be, doing everything right. And you shouldn't be like starving or drinking or like being, parched or, dehydrated during the week. You should be able to eat good and drink as much as you want and still make weight correctly. A lot of guys do it the wrong way. And that's what like Terry's been kind of on me and guys like Austin DeSanto about doing it the right way,
Sure. We'll ask Gary Barta that same making weight question here.
He played football. Come on. He wanted to get bigger.
Yeah. there's a great video of you and President Harold on a CAN bus. Talking win, graduate, do it right, things like that. How'd that come about, that video?
Well, I met President Harold at when I was at Congress, when I was getting like the Spencer Lee Day, being honored for winning my first national title, and I got to talking to him, and I just thought he was such a high mentality individual, and I just wanted to keep talking to him more, and I wanted to learn from him. And he I guess he liked talking to me too, because when the athletic department, Terry had the idea. Terry said I should talk to him, have like a video of just us talking. And it was kind of cool because when he accepted it, I was pretty excited. Just I want to talk to him. So when I was actually talking, sometimes I forgot I was like on the mic, just because I just was just I wanted, it's who I was. I just want to talk. So when we talked for an hour and a half maybe, and it was pretty cool just hearing from him and the experiences, and him talking about athletics, and how tough it is to be a student athlete. And it was tough for him, and he's the president of the university. He obviously had a lot of hardships, and he had to work hard to get to where he was. So I just want to learn and how I could better myself off the mat as well. And it was a pretty awesome opportunity. I was pretty lucky.
So what are your plans? The Olympics have been pushed back a year.
Yeah.
So now, as you mentioned, you're in a little bit of a break, trying to train on your own. How will you ramp up, and what's your future look like? Obviously competing for the Hawkeyes still, but what does the future of Spencer Lee look like?
Well, I think we're going to fight, maybe try and get me another semester. But we'll see. There's a lot of things going into that. I got a lot of time, so I'm not really worried about that. But I want to compete next year for the Hawkeyes. I don't want an Olympic redshirt or do any of that. I want to wrestle. I want to win a national title for me and my teammates and as a team. And then after that, I want to coach and compete for the Olympics. I want to compete for 3 cycles. So 2020, 2024, 2028. So Tokyo, Paris, LA. Those are the 3 Olympics that I want to go to. And so I want to compete for about 7 to 8 more years, and in the Hockey Wrestling Club. And after I do that, I want to coach, whether it's here or whoever hires me. That's what I want to do. I want to coach. I want to help athletes achieve their goals. I want them to achieve their goals like the coaches and mentors that I had help for me to achieve mine. And so that's kind of my plan. I want to, and then however that moves into, if I ever want to move into athletic administration, maybe I got to get a master's degree if I even want to be, even thought of for that. So that's kind of plan. Maybe I'll get my master's within those next 8 years, and compete as long as I can, coach, and hopefully become a coach somewhere.
Spencer, I know everyone on this call knows that whatever you set out to do, you're going to accomplish, because that's how you're wired. And it's been great having you on this call. Truly appreciate your participation. Wish you the best of luck. Any parting thoughts with the group before you have to go on and study that French?
Just thank you guys for supporting me and helping me be able to be the athlete and student that I am here, helping the whole university, all the athletic department as a whole. We wouldn't be who we are without you guys, and I wouldn't be who I am, and thankful. Thank you guys very much, and thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thanks, Spencer.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yep.
Well, as you can see, Spencer, as Gary mentioned, one of 650 student athletes that we are all that work in athletics so blessed to work with on a day in and day out basis. And clearly your support goes to help individuals like Spencer. So thank you for what you do. At this time, we'll turn it back over to Gary, who's got some thoughts, and we'll try and save a little time, but obviously recognize the timing of Tiger Hawk talk. So Gary?
I could just listen to him all day long. I tell you, he is the epitome of, he's why I love what I do, and I know he's why you love supporting the Hawkeyes. And so it just, what a great way to get your Monday rearing to go, especially through challenging times. We've spent a lot of time. I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of how the athletic department's operating, and share with you, some of our challenges, some of the things we're working on. But one of the things that Spencer said is just spot on. The first thing we did was check in with our student athletes and make sure they were safe, they had a place to live, they had food, And the coaches were awesome in getting that done. We got everybody situated. A small group like Spencer are living in Iowa City, but many are living all over the country. And in fact, we have student athletes who have returned home. We have student athletes all over the world. And so when we do some of these Zoom meetings, we're talking to people in Australia, in England, in all over, several different places. But one of the things that, we said to our staff and our coaches right away is, when things are uncertain, it can create so much stress and anxiety. And you heard Spencer say exactly what you would want somebody to say who's going through a crisis, and that is, hey, there's things I can't control. So I'm focusing on the things I can control. I'm focusing on staying positive. I'm focusing on what is it today that I can do to get better. One of the things we told our student athletes right away, what's your daily plan for 3 things? And he mentioned it and Matt mentioned it. What's your plan to be safe and have, take care of yourself health-wise? What's your plan academically, and what's your plan training? And so, we just keep reminding our student athletes every day, that's your focus. And our coaches and our strength coaches and our athletic trainers and our academic advisors are on the phone regularly with our student athletes, or in Zoom meetings, most likely. So that's kind of something that's happening with our student athletes every day. I've joined just about every team now in a team meeting, at least one. And it's my favorite part of the day, just listening to people like Spencer just talk about how they're doing and what they're doing. In addition to that, I start every day with a meeting with the Big Ten ADs and the commissioner, and we're going through systematically what are the things we need to work on, what's still out there, and then, of course, preparing for how we come back, when we come back, and what it looks like. I thought about this group and just kind of sharing some things, and the first thing that came to my mind was on March 11th, I was in a meeting in Indianapolis. We were at the men's tournament, hadn't started yet, and all the ADs were in a meeting with the arena folks, the county health people, and everything was a go. Everything was all set, and that was at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on March 11th. On March 12th in the morning, I had 2 separate meetings with the men's basketball coaches and student athletes. And then the second meeting was about 11:30 in the morning, and that's when I shared with them that the tournament had been canceled. And you can just imagine the pain and agony of the guys in that room, and how hard that was. While we were there, because then we had to start figuring out when we were going to leave, but while we were there that afternoon, the senior staff and I were on the phone. We had our track team was in New Mexico, just getting ready to start the winter championships. We had a women's tennis team that was traveling. They were actually in a bus traveling to Indiana to compete. We had our baseball team that was just getting ready to leave for the airport to fly to San Diego. And so we had all these teams getting ready to take their next steps. And our senior team, we were constantly on the phone, touching base with everybody, and telling the women's tennis team, you got to come home. Telling the track team, you have to come home. Telling the baseball team, don't go. It's, this thing is falling apart quickly. And so we were doing that. We were also on the phone with the NCAA, because you may recall that was the same day that all winter championships were canceled. And then eventually all the spring championships. And so the last day we had a head coaches meeting and an all staff meeting in person was on the 13th. So from the 11th, hearing everything, we had a plan and we were a go, to the 13th, where we had our last in-person meeting. And from that day forward, we've been isolated in our homes, like all of you have as well. And our staff is doing a great job working from home. We have our senior staff, I'm on the phone with them every day. We have a full meeting 2 times a week. We have a head coaches meeting. We had one this morning. We have a head coaches meeting once a week, but we're in regular daily conversations with them. I've been on the phone in a couple of different instances with the NCAA. They come out with different rulings as we're going through this crisis. You can't conduct business as usual. And so there's constantly discussions about how the NCAA is going to have to make adjustments. I'm on the president's cabinet, and so from a campus standpoint, we have this incredible group of people. President Harold appointed a critical incident management team. And every morning at 7:45, I'm not on this team, but I'm briefed by them on a regular basis. This is a group of people who are keeping the university going. And every day they're making decisions. Every day they're working on the next step. And once they got through the initial crisis, now they've appointed a team that has Plan A. And Plan A is we will be back on campus this fall for classes in person. Of course, we have another team that needs to prepare for what if it's partially on campus and partially online, or then the worst case scenario. At this point, we have to plan for it, but we don't intend to use it, and that's to continue and just have online courses in the fall. And so, and there's an HR committee, there's a finance committee, and the campus is doing an incredible job of communicating with students and doing a great job. I have 2 kids that are at Iowa. One's a sophomore, a daughter, and one's a son who's a junior. And I'm living through them how this is going. And I don't think they were joking. I laughed, but I think they were serious. They said, you know, some of my professors are pretty good, but some of them were really boring in person, and man, they are even more boring in a Zoom class. So we're just kind of fighting our way through that. With the Big Ten, we're talking about return to play. You know, what does it have to look like for us to have Kinnick Stadium full of fans and playing a game? And we've had conversations with, obviously, medical professionals. We're having conversations with athletic trainers, with our coaches. Kirk and I have been in several discussions and meetings in the Big Ten. You know, what's the minimum amount of time it would require to bring football players back safely to prepare for a first game? And if the first game's around September 1st, and that window is about 6 weeks, that puts you at mid-July, where you have to have the student athletes back on campus and training. If you're going to be there by mid-July and declaring the season to start on time, what's the drop dead date for as late as you can declare that? And we haven't set that date yet, but we're having conversations about that. What is it that allows, whether it's from the president, the governor, or local health authorities, what is it that allows us to gather in groups again? Is that possible? If so, what's the protocol? What is it with testing? I think we're all waiting for mass testing. I heard Rutgers has a researcher right now who has developed a test that you can take it by swabbing, and within 10 or 15 minutes, you get the result. That's now with the FDC. If that gets approved and can be mass produced, just think of, instead of quarantining all of us, we can just test and quarantine the people who are sick or the people who are most at risk. And I know I'm saying things you all have heard and you know, but as it pertains to returning to play, that's critical in getting there. From a ticket holder standpoint, it's been amazing in conversations with some of you, with ticket holders. You know, everybody wants to support and get back into whatever the new normal is going to be. We quickly extended the renewal date for season ticket holders. We've always had, but we've more activated a payment plan for season ticket holders. You know, we talk about how loyal our fans have been to us in those years way back. Some of you remember when we only won one game or no games and you stayed with us. Well, we're staying with our fans and figuring out ways to help those that need some additional help and making sure that if for some reason the season is disrupted, that we would refund or credit everybody's ticket accounts. From a cash flow standpoint, we probably ask all those that can, allow us to credit this to your next purchase, whether it's next year's season tickets. But for those that say, look, I really have to have a refund, we'll make that right and of course do that. So we're just so grateful. I again look at the screen and so many of you, what you've done for us over the years, and a couple of you have even stepped up during this time and made some commitments to help us out additionally in the short run, and that's been amazing. So thank you. I might as well jump to the finance, since this all relates to finance. Here's where we're at in the current year. Fortunately, we had completed most of our revenue playing seasons, football and men's basketball to be the most revenue generating. There are still revenue streams that are not complete yet, but the largest TV and football ticket revenue we're already in. So we're fortunate for that. We've made some assumptions on some other revenue streams, one of which being donations. We've downsized our expectations there and some other areas of revenue. With the numbers that we've put together, we anticipate we're going to be between $3 and $5 million short, but we have reserves to cover that. So we have a plan, without laying anybody off, to get through June 30th, as long as our assumptions come to fruition. And again, I feel confident that they will. We might be off $1 million here or there, but we have a plan to get through this year. Where we're really starting to spend our efforts is putting together a plan for next year. There's no magic number, but we've done the best that we can in our homework to make some assumptions. This, by the way, assumes we do play football, that we would be down in our revenue by at least 15%. And at 15%, that's roughly around $20 million reduction. So we're working, again, with our staff, with our coaches, and we're looking for $20 million in reducing expenses. And as we've shared in several meetings, that's not just trimming around the edges. That's some serious cut. And that's going to be a shared sacrifice throughout the department. We're looking at our operating budgets, our team sports budgets. The one expense we will not cut, and that's scholarships for student athletes. We are looking at reducing our compensation total, which comes in just under $50 million each year. And we're looking to reduce that and doing it in a way that's shared, but so much of it is going to be voluntary, but we're having great discussions there. And again, we're going to have a plan. And like many of you, again, I know every story is unique, but what you're doing personally, what you're doing with your businesses, what I'm describing is very similar, I'm sure, if not worse. So we are working hard on a regular basis to go through that and prepare for it. And the president has been great, and this campus, our staff, our coaches, our student athletes have been amazing. And then just to close on a positive and answer some questions, but listening to Luca, I've had a chance to talk to he and his father. Sitting in, Kathleen Doyle, getting what she was able to achieve, watching her family celebrate, and yet her season was cut short. We've made a decision for all the spring sports, because the NCAA allows it, for those seniors that want to come back. Our coaches have worked with us to figure out a way to bring them back, to the tune of about $500,000 in expense that we didn't budget for, but we're working through that. And so, wow, difficult times, trying times, so much momentum though with our young people. It just, you should be inspired at the way the coaches and the student athletes and the staff are working through this. So I'd be happy, Matt, I don't know if you have any chat questions or anybody has any questions they want to ask, but again, thank you for everybody who's joining us today.
One question that, and you kind of answered, that was asked, is how the 24 sports, 19 coaches, how those coaches, you mentioned a weekly coaches meeting, but how they're handling this, what is a pause in how they've operated for so many years, their normal process, the type of things that coaches are doing and how they're working together.
Yeah, everybody's having to adapt. And when I meet with the teams, I start off and I say, I'm going to share with you a real high-level, intellectual response, athletic director-like response to what we're going through. And then I just say, I don't care which way you look at it, this just sucks. And I talk to them about, hey, understand, as athletic director, I don't have everything together. every day that goes by, I think about how are we going to do this, or I get down for a while, and then I have visits like this, or I listen to Spencer Lee, or I sit with the coaches in a Zoom meeting, and so that's what our coaches are doing, and they've been incredible. I listen to our student athletes, and they're doing the same thing. It's hard. It's just hard, but they just get up day by day and stay at it, and it's inspiring. It's hard. None of us would choose to go through this, but it's inspiring. We're all going to come out of this better some way, somehow.
One of the comments, I like it, the bowl game. Clearly, early on in the process what bowl the football team goes to. You just choose not to share it with anybody. A little bit, that's a joke, sarcasm there. But how you mentioned the coming back and how to play. The Big Ten has a committee, infectious disease. The AD's talking about it. I think that's a big question that's come up a couple of times. Just that process of while they date the uncertainty, how those conversations kind of are going.
Well, if you just think about your businesses or your lifetimes, there is no manual. There's nowhere in the Big Ten manual. There's nowhere in my 32-year career. There's nowhere in the NCAA that tells you how this is all going to pan out and how you're going to fix it. And so you start with principles. And principle number one is we're going to be safe. Whatever we do, we're going to maximize how we do it in terms of making sure people are safe. Now, that doesn't mean, however we do this, there's going to be zero risk. I mean, you all think about if you go to the grocery store today, there's risk. There's going to be risk when we get back to our offices and whatever it is, our lives. But we're going to mitigate that risk, and you're going to minimize the risk, and then go forward intentionally with a plan. Well, that plan, as Matt mentioned, our commissioner in early March, before any of this really became apparent, he put together a committee on infectious disease, and the leading people from each university. In our case, it's Edith Parker, the Dean of the College of Public Health, but there are experts from every campus in the Big Ten who are part of this committee and are working to bring our campuses first and foremost back, and then as a subgroup of that, making sure we bring back athletics and our student athletes back. And so, again, we're engaged in daily conversations, whether it's the phased plan that our U.S. administration and our president are putting out, whether it's the governor in Iowa in the plan that she's following. Obviously, we're going to fall in line with that, and then President Harold and the Board of Regents will put a plan together for the University of Iowa to get back. Yes, it's September, whatever the date is for the first football game, but what is the day we can first bring back our student athletes to train in our weight rooms? And when we do, what are our strength coaches going to have to do differently? For sure in phase one, does everybody have to wear a mask when they train in phase one? Can there only be 10 or 15 or 20 student athletes in the room at the same time? And then maybe phase two is maybe there are more students, and maybe you don't have to wear a mask until phase three, and where you're populated in a larger group. When does that happen? So we're approaching it that way, just like our country is trying to get back and get into whatever the new normal is going to look like.
Well, I want to recognize the time. So with that, Gary, any last thoughts before we close up?
Other than every day, I start the day and end the day with just counting my blessings and being thankful and praying for the people who, as Spencer said, who are in the hospitals, who are running the grocery stores, who are keeping the food train moving. And we are blessed through all this. As hard as it is, just enjoying time with my family. I just encourage you all, take care of yourself, your mental health, your physical health. And one day we'll all be in the same room again. And I tell our student athletes, 20 years from now, you're going to be telling your kids and your coworkers, remember back in 20 when we went through that? This will be a memory someday. And but we will get through it, and I can't wait to see you all in person.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Spencer. Thanks each of you for your time and join us today. As Gary mentioned, we will get through it, and we'll get through it because of each of you. Thank you all for your support. Have a wonderful week. On Iowa, and go Hawks.